Cool Coalition delivering on climate, energy, and food on the pathway to COP26, hosted by the Danish and Ethiopian Permanent Mission to the UN and the Cool Coalition. My name is Lily Riahi, and I am the coordinator for the Cool Coalition at UN Environment Program. I'll be moderating and keeping us on time to make it through this ambitious agenda that we have in front of us today. Throughout the event, there will be 2 opportunities for participants to take the floor. One after the first panel ends at 9:05 a.m. and another one at 9:40 a.m. when the second panel ends. Please indicate in the chat your interest to take the floor and indicate in which session. Now, to get us started, we'll have some welcome remarks from His Excellency, the Ethiopian Ambassador Amde. Ambassador, over to you.
Good morning, all. Can you hear me? Thank you, Lily. Thank you very much. Let me start by thanking all who worked diligently to make this important event possible. My appreciation goes to colleagues and experts from the Permanent Mission of Denmark, the Cooling Coalition team, and as well as my mission. Cooling at this juncture has gained significant importance. The world is moving in direction that force policymakers to pay more attention to the issue. Global warming, particularly as evident through recurring heat waves, is the latest reminder of this development. Moreover, the world continues to experience rapid expansion in urbanization and economies, making a stronger case for finding ways of promoting cooling in a sustainable manner. Cooling will continue to play a critical role in industrial production and the preservation of food and medicine, and generally in health and prosperity. The rise in global temperature is also adding to the continuous demand for cooling. However, business as usual cooling can be disastrous to the planet. We can no longer continue to overlook the adverse impact of cooling in the fight against climate change. Commitment is required to improving access to cooling sustainably by improving energy efficiency, as well as by avoiding harmful substances that have been widely used for cooling. The potential for developing world here can be enormous. Given the low access to cooling, there is a real opportunity to bypass these technologies and to jump directly to more sustainable ones. Generally, the efforts to make cooling sustainable should be driven by the need to break the vicious cycle where demand for cooling energy drives further greenhouse gas emission and results in even more global warming. Solution to make cooling sustainable and climate friendly can include technological infrastructure developments, innovative business models, and context-based regulation. Understandably, these are gigantic steps that require more focus, clean vision, and collaboration from all actors in the ecosystem. From this vantage point, I would like to thank our colleagues from the Cool Coalition for their consistent efforts to inject more energy and keep this drive at the forefront of the environmental sustainability agenda by bringing together actors from both the public and private sector. Finally, I would like to emphasize the importance of joining this important initiative and encourage all those member states that have already joined to try to integrate cooling into their national determined contribution. I thank you. Back to you, Lily.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and for the call to action. Now we go to Ms. Lija Norona, who's the Assistant Secretary General and Head of UN Environment Program to the New York office, to provide a scene setter on why cooling matters and the progress the Cool Coalition has made since the UN Secretary General's Climate Action Summit.
Thank you
Lija,
very
the
much,
floor is
Lily.
yours.
Thank you, Lily. Ambassador Amde, Ambassador Herman, Excellencies, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. As you just heard, I'm Lija Nerona, the head of UNEP's New York office. And a very big thank you to Denmark and Ethiopia for bringing us all together this morning to highlight this crucial and far too long missing part of the climate action and sustainable development puzzle. I'm of course talking about efficient, climate-friendly cooling. Cooling is as much about thermal comfort as it is about protecting vulnerable populations, keeping vaccines viable, food fresh from farm to fork, and workforces productive. Let me give you some quick facts to illustrate my point. 1 billion people face risks from a lack of cooling, primarily in Asia and Africa. Almost a third of the world's population face dangerous temperatures for more than 20 days in a year. Over 1.5 million people die each year because of the lack of cold storage and refrigerated transport of vaccines. Up to 50% of food is lost post-harvest in developing countries due to inadequate refrigeration and cold chains. To deliver on the sustainable development goals, ladies and gentlemen, we need to expand access to cooling, but we cannot expand it on a business as usual situation. We need present approaches to cooling, but they should not be the ones that we have currently because they contribute to climate change. The conventional approaches cause up to 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions. And this number is even more alarming as we head for a temperature rise of 3 degrees, according to UNEP's emissions gap report. Today, around 10% of the world's electricity is used for air conditioning, and the demand for cooling commercial and residential buildings will grow exponentially in the years to come, making action on cooling a priority for climate mitigation. If left unchecked, emissions related to cooling are expected to double by 2030 and triple by 2100, driven by heat waves, population growth, urbanization, and the demands of a growing middle class. At the same time, with rising temperature, access to cooling is becoming an essential tool for adaptation. So we need to act quickly and boldly to break the vicious circle of cooling and warming. To solve this dilemma, we need a rapid transition to climate-friendly and energy-efficient cooling. We need to drastically reduce the energy used by cooling appliances by enforcing and tightening efficiency standards, effectively phasing down HFCs, providing incentives for market transformation, include passive cooling in our building codes, and adopt comprehensive urban cooling strategies and decarbonize the energy sector to get to net zero emissions in the sector by 2050. Countries can make 2021 the year of cooling action, and that's why we're all here this morning. So how do we go about this transition? We need to think comprehensively. We need smart buildings, urban forests, nature-based solutions. We need energy-efficient equipment and appliances, solar-powered cold chains, and a shift to lower global warming potential refrigerants. By transforming our concrete jungles into urban forests, mandating green roofs and walls in buildings, and increasing tree canopy cover, we can keep our cities cooler sustainably and make them more livable. We already have examples of this. In Medellin, Colombia's second largest city, a project to green the city has already brought the temperatures down by almost 2 degrees centigrade. The emission mitigation opportunity in the sector is of incredible magnitude. Last year's cooling synthesis report demonstrated that by combining energy efficiency and refrigerant improvements in cooling, we can avoid the equivalent of 4 to 8 years of total annual greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Getting to net zero cooling can also reduce the cost of the energy transition by $3.5 trillion by 2030. So advancing efficient climate-friendly cooling can yield multiple benefits for the people and the planet. So interventions can help us create jobs and rebuild our economies better and greener, while also contributing to resilience to future shocks and pandemics, specifically in terms of vaccine cold chains. Countries can develop national cooling action plans to deliver efficient and sustainable cooling and bring essential life-preserving services like vaccines and safe food to all people while driving climate action, as said by the UN Secretary General. And we have the opportunity of anchoring action on cooling in our climate strategies. So be cool, join the movement. The Cool Coalition offers a comprehensive approach to accelerate action on the ground. Making this transition happen is also the raison d'etre of the Cool Coalition, a joint effort of over 110 governments, cities, businesses, development organizations, and civil society groups that support countries and industry to take comprehensive action to tackle growing cooling demand while contributing to the Paris Agreement, the Montreal Protocol, and Agenda 2030. The transformational initiative of the Climate Action Summit, the Cool Coalition has since taken forward the biggest coordinated surge of action on efficient climate-friendly cooling. Since the Cool Coalition has been established, 16 country members have included commitments to reducing cooling emissions in their enhanced national determined contributions, bringing the total number to 50 countries that have or are in the process of submitting enhanced NDCs that include sustainable cooling action. Countries are working with Cool Coalition members to demonstrate new approaches in underaddressed areas. And these are, and you're going to hear from them, Rwanda and India on integrated sustainable cold chain solutions, Cambodia on passive cooling solutions, Vietnam on urban cooling, Colombia on district cooling, Burkina Faso on social housing and appliances, Indonesia on comprehensive national cooling action plan. This coalition is producing science-based knowledge products and expert tools to support country policy and decision-making. A global action pathway to net zero cooling for all by 2050 is the objective of the UNFCCC, COP26 champions, the KCPEP, and Carbon Trust. And with UN Regional Economic Social Commissions, the Kigali Climate Cooling Efficiency Program, and several other partners, we will launch a methodology for countries who want to develop national cooling action plans. With the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, we prepared guidance on how to be integrated cooling in the green recovery. These are just a few examples, ladies and gentlemen. The United Front of Partners of the coalition has mobilized company commitments to transition to efficient technologies and low global warming potential refrigerants, and has collectively helped catalyze finance such as a KSAP NDC cooling support facility of $12 million. So while the Cool Coalition has achieved great progress, we know that there's much more to be done. Luckily, our members' ambitions and opportunities for action on cooling keep on growing. Through the UN food system, we are mobilizing transformational action on cold chains with people-centered sustainable approaches. The Cool Coalition is working with Ozone Secretariat and Italy to build on the Rome Declaration, and you're going to hear about that too today, to mobilize action and new commitments at the summit. On the road to COP26, countries can join the race to zero and help us mobilize additional commitments to net zero cooling from industry leaders based on the Global Climate Action Cooling Pathway. Countries can also join the Cool Coalition, the UK and IEA, to implement the product efficiency call to action launched in 2020. Over the next year, ladies and gentlemen, we will support more countries and city members to take comprehensive action to tackle growing cooling demand and deliver on the climate, food, energy nexus. In sum, getting cooling right offers a 3-in-1 opportunity to cut global warming, improve the lives of hundreds of millions of people, and realize huge financial savings. The Cool Coalition is a powerful collective force for bringing these and many other benefits together and we've proved it since the Climate Action Summit. So I hope you will join us today to keep the planet cool. Together we can make a difference for people and the planet. Thank you very much. Lily, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lija, for your very inspiring remarks and for highlighting the urgency and opportunities for collective action. We often say that images are worth 1,000 words. And so we would like to leave you now with the Cool Coalition curtain raiser video.
The cooling industry provides services and equipment to keep our homes, offices, buildings, and data centers cool. It provides the refrigeration cold chain that allows us to store, transport, and deliver everything from food to vaccines.
Cooling is the backbone of our society, but it's an invisible industry. We don't think about it, we just take it for granted.
But the more we cool, the more we heat the planet. Today, refrigerators and air conditioners account for almost 20% of global electricity demand.
The demand for cooling air conditioner will grow strongly.
As global temperatures rise, population grows, and living standards improve, the demand for cooling is skyrocketing and increasing planet-warming emissions.
We need, first of all, to work on energy consumption, to reduce it massively.
Without action, energy demand for space cooling will more than triple by 2050, consuming as much electricity as all of China and India today.
Alongside that, what we're blind to is actually the challenge of addressing this 1.1 billion people who don't have access to cooling. So we've got two challenges.
Governments, businesses, and cities are already taking on the challenge.
The cities are not waiting for climate change. We can see that climate change is already a reality for us, so we have to act.
Alternatives can help make our cities cooler. Building designs and materials, urban parks and green roofs, cool reflective roofs, and district cooling networks are all cost-effective solutions that lower CO2 emissions. Countries can reduce electricity demand for cooling by setting building codes and minimum energy performance standards, while off-grid solutions can maintain cold chains where grid electricity is not available.
Energy transition needs to be affordable, to be implemented a rapid way.
We have to deliver cooling for all within our climate constraints.
Efficient, climate-friendly cooling offers a 3-in-1 opportunity to cut global warming, improve the lives of hundreds of millions of people, and realize huge financial savings. We have the momentum thanks to the Kigali Amendment, to the Montreal Protocol, the Biarritz Pledge, and now the Cool Coalition, a global multi-stakeholder network that connects a wide range of key actors. We will probably never have as good a chance to tackle the cooling challenge. But we can only go far if we go together.
So we can only go far if we go together. That is really what the Cool Coalition is about, as underlined by the video and also by Lija's intervention, taking collective action to accelerate the transition to efficient climate-friendly cooling. Now I'm going to turn to the Cool Coalition partners, countries, and philanthropy to discuss how working with the Cool Coalition has helped advance the cause of sustainable cooling. We have here with us today a panel with Mr. Sokorovut Pak, Deputy Director General from the General Directorate of Environmental Protection, Ministry of Environment, Cambodia. Ms. Cook Nguyen, who's the National Ozone Coordinator from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, Vietnam. Maurice Keyetar, Project Lead from the Rwanda Cooling Initiative, and Ms. Jessica Brown, Executive Director from the Kigali Cooling Efficiency Program. So to begin with, I'd like to put a question to each of the 3 countries who have been working with the Cool Coalition. Why does cooling matter to you? And what support have you received from the coalition that has helped you move forward? I think I'd like to first start with you, Mr. Pak. Cambodia was one of the first countries to join the Cool Coalition, and we would like to understand why acting on cooling has been a priority for your country.
Thank you very much, Lily. Ambassador, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, as you may know, cooling is the key to ensure the reliable cooling and refrigeration equipment for our hospital and to keep our food fresh from farm to fork, but also putting stress on our electricity grid and also contributing to significant for further global warming. As you know, the Ministry of Environment of Cambodia has identified efficient climate-friendly cooling as one of the priority action to greenhouse gas mitigation as we embark on the phase down of HFC under the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. We want to make sure our approach to cooling help us to comply to the Kigali. Thanks to the cooling coalition, we have come together across ministry and sector and are tackling the coal challenge at multiple levels. This comprehensive intervention, including the development of our National Cooling Action Plan, the deployment of sustainable cooling chain, and the pilot of comprehensive urban cooling approach. That my response to Lily. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pak. Now, Cook, talking about raising ambition, I know that in October 2020, Vietnam updated its NDC to include cooling and to maximize its co-benefits. So we would be curious to hear more about how integrating cooling into your enhanced NDC will have a positive impact in your country.
Thank you, Lily, for the questions. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to be here today, joining the event. So I would like to respond that we have submitted the updated NDC on October last year, and this time it has taken the entire economy into account, including the industrial processes, which hasn't been taken into account before. Each sector is expected to provide these social economic benefits in one way or another. And among which the energy sector, together with its mitigation measures, are identified as the most promising one in terms of synergies with social and economic development. Together with wind power, solar power, other energy efficiency measures, we will expect to yield the potential social economic co-benefits and also contributing to declining our dependence on the import of coal and creating the country's energy independence. So for Vietnam, the cities are extremely vulnerable to the effects of climate change. Urban populations face increasingly severe health risks. Last summer, we had to suffer from this simultaneous hot weather, and the farmer had to work at night in order to avoid the severe heat. The firms has to adjust the working hours so that to protect their employees, and also having the medical team ready in case of sunstroke. So as the matter of fact, the demand for cooling has increased dramatically. From our statistic, we can tell that for refrigerations and air conditioning market of the country has grown continuously from 2011 till 2019, about 10 to 12% per year. Well, I don't count for 2020 and 2021 because we got a lot of influence by COVID situation. So the cooling consumption in cities is really putting stress in the electricity grid and contributing significantly to the global warming. Well, the greenhouse gas emissions are expected to be double by 2030 if we don't act. So that's the reason why we have prioritized actions on efficient and climate-friendly cooling. We have included cooling in our enhanced NDC, and also we have ratified the Kigali Amendment on phase down of HFC, and the preparation is underway. So by saying that, I want to say that Vietnam is taking simultaneously tackling cooling with our end users in cities, because we know that it would help for us to maximize the climate benefits. So we're working at national, regional, and sub-regional level in order to develop the national and urban cooling plans. We hope that in the coming time, it would bring out the best and improvement of the energy efficiency standards, and also contributing to improve humans' well-being in the country. Thank you. Back to you, Lily.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cook. Now I would like to turn to you, Morris. I know that your country is home to the Kigali Amendment and is recognized as champion of efficient climate-friendly cooling on the international stage. And we know you're also walking the talk at home. Now, can you tell us a little more?
Thank you, Lily. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on your time zone. I'm very pleased to be here. I mean, it's very good to be in such a group of people talking about different ways to protect our environment. As pointed out by Lily, Rwanda Cooling Initiative is a project that is co-implemented by the government of Rwanda and UNEP through Rwanda Environment Management Authority, RIMA, and it's an implementation of the Kigali Amendment. The government of Rwanda continues to champion the Kigali Amendment, which aims to phase down hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs, aiming to reduce up to 0.4 degrees of global warming by the end of this century. Phasing down HFCs is only part of the story, though. The other part is improving the energy efficiency of cooling products and reducing demand for cooling in the first place. To implement the Kigali Amendment and similar international commitments, Rwanda has put in place the Rwanda National Cooling Strategy, which includes regulation with a limit on how much electricity can be used and the global warming potential of the refrigerant gas used by a typical refrigerator or air conditioner. And it promotes alternative cooling solutions such as shading and natural ventilation. Thanks to the support from KESIP, the project has developed financing mechanisms to help the adoption of energy efficient cooling equipment and has recently rolled out a massive awareness campaign. The strategy highlights 6 key points or objectives. And one of them that I would like to quickly highlight here, and maybe we'll have a chance to discuss again, is the challenge of post-harvest and food loss that has been mentioned by my colleagues that spoke before me. It also mentions disposal, collection, recycling of end-of-life equipment, and it also lists putting in place a product registration system as one of the key strategies. Back to you, Lily.
Thank you very much, Morris. I would just like to take a moment to first congratulate all of the countries we've just heard from on the very ambitious action that's being taken across, including in the NDC and also on the Kigali Amendment. Before I move to Jess, I would like to just, I understand that His Excellency Ethiopian Ambassador Amde would need to leave leave us. So Ambassador Amde, I'd like to just say thank you for joining us, and we're very grateful for you to host this event.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sincerely appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Jess, let me turn to you. So as the executive director of the Kigali Cooling Efficiency Program, and really, which has been really a catalyst in the cooling space, can you tell us more about how KSEP is working together for some of the Cool Coalition members to raise ambition?
Thank you, Lily, and hello, everyone. It's great to be with you all and great to hear from these countries who are doing so much to tackle this really important problem. As Lily mentioned, I run the Kigali Cooling Efficiency Program. We are a global philanthropic collaboration focused on increasing access to efficient climate-friendly cooling. And we have been running since around 2017 and have been allocating resources to address this really critical issue. We have allocated about $60 million towards scaling up efficient climate-friendly cooling. And we feel that KSEP has really helped to get cooling on the global map and elevate the issue among funders, among policymakers, finance community, industry, et cetera. And a few years back, KSEP, in partnership with UN Environment, joined forces to develop and co-lead the Cool Coalition. And it has been a very solid partnership that we have. The Cool Coalition is raising the profile, building the narrative, the tools, the knowledge, and KSEP is funding implementation of Cool Coalition members who have committed to action. So for example, and a few folks have mentioned this already, KSEP launched the NDC support facility for efficient climate-friendly cooling last year. And the NDC facility provides support to governments who want to integrate efficient climate-friendly cooling solutions in the next round of their country's nationally determined contributions, which are of course due ahead of COP26 later this year. And based on countries' intentions to commit to cooling in their enhanced NDCs this year, KSEP decided to support 10 of these countries with grants from the NDC support facility. So for example, KSEP is supporting Vietnam, which we've just heard from, to do some work on their urban cooling action plans and in 2 of their biggest cities. We're also supporting Cambodia to help with passive cooling in building energy codes. And another example is we're helping countries and cities to implement the Cool Coalition Sustainable Cooling in Cities Guide, developed by the Cool Coalition members, RMI, GCOM, UN Environment, and Mission Innovation. And we're just absolutely thrilled to be in this partnership with Cool Coalition and with Cool Coalition members, and very much look forward to supporting new members in the coming months and years. Back to you, Lily.
Thank you very much, Jess, and also for all that you do as KSEP to really make a difference in raising ambition on efficient climate-friendly cooling. Cook, as Jess just highlighted, Vietnam is one of the recipients of the NDC support facility. Can you give us one concrete example of how the Cool Coalition and its members are helping your country keep cool without warming the planet?
Okay, thank you, Lily, for the questions. So we have officially joined the Cool Coalition last year, sorry. And being a member of the Cool Coalition, it has greatly helped us to enhance the understanding around the cooling challenge. Well, it was something very new and difficult at the beginning, but now I understand it better, and provide us with knowledge on the existing solutions to tackle it comprehensively. And I feel that together with the ongoing work that we are doing on HPMP phase out management plan and the upcoming HFC phase out plan, we expect that the work with Cool Coalition will help us to build synergies in many aspects, especially in energy efficiency measures to maximize our impact on the climate. So within the frame of the Cool Coalition and the support from KSEP, we are planning on sustainable urban cooling, as mentioned by Ms. Jessica just now, together with UNEP and GGGI. And we will be working in Tam Kỳ and Dong Hới, which is the large cities in Vietnam, and we were piloting different methodology here and helping the provinces to develop their urban cooling action plans. We also will implement the transformative pilot projects that will integrate urban greening, renewable cooling project, district cooling, and also some improvement in the urban design. So such measures can limit the massive growth in energy needs for cooling, save energy, save money, and reduce the energy consumption. And one thing that we would do at the national level is to trying to establish a dedicated cooling fund under the Environmental Protection Fund, which is the existing tool that we are working outreach to other provinces in the country, which aim at unlocking the budget and for the intervention on extreme heat and urban cooling, for expansion replication purpose. So our hope is to ensure that the replication of the best practices and solutions cooling in different cities of Vietnam and contributing to the national commitment that Vietnam has made in our NDC. So we expect that through joining the Cool Coalitions, the lessons and best practices from different countries can be shared, and so that together we can build up a so-called like-minded countries and working together on efficient climate friendly cooling. So yeah, that's the message. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cook. I think it's a nice segue to you, Morris, actually. We just heard Cook speaking about Vietnam's perspective on how important it is to share best practice and learning from with peer countries on efficient climate-friendly cooling. And Rwanda is really showcasing what we would like to see replicated throughout many countries in Africa and beyond. How can the Cool Coalition support?
Thank you, Lily. There are different ways that Cool Coalition can support. To give an example, Rwanda's population is estimated to grow up to double, and so is most of the other countries in Africa. And the climate change impact cannot be neglected in terms of food supply, environment change, and the production of the cooling equipment. But talking about food supply itself, intensifying the production of food supply is actually not going to be the solution. Mitigating food loss will be key for food security. So the government of Rwanda has launched recently the African Center of Excellence for Sustainable Cooling and Cold Chain, ACES, which is hosted in country by the University of Rwanda. And we would like to see the Cool Coalition members use ACES as a way of reaching other African countries who can be persuaded to take fast action. The initial phase of the Center of Excellence was completed thanks to the funding from the UK government grant. And there was in-kind support from many other partners. And also the University of Rwanda provided a campus. There is no better case study than a peer who has taken bold action and showcasing the many benefits. The Cool Coalition offers a unique platform when it comes to advocacy and knowledge sharing. We like that it is an active learning community that breaks down silos and promotes cross-cutting approaches. The Cool Coalition is also constantly here to remind countries about the need to connect the different international agenda, including the Paris Agreement and the Kigali Amendment. Back to you.
Thank you, Morris. Maybe now I can segue to Mr. Pak. We have continued to hear about lessons learned and sharing of best practice. Could you tell us a little bit more about your work on the development of national cooling action plans? And you mentioned earlier that the Cool Coalition had helped bring together different agendas and ministries to deliver on various agreements. Could you maybe elaborate a little more on that?
Thank you very much, Lily, that for you giving me the floor again. And as you may know, Cambodia became the first country to develop and pilot a comprehensive national cooling action plan based on the Cool Coalition methodology. Working with the Cooling Coalition and its partner like the Kigali Cooling Efficiency Program, we have discussed cooling in the enhanced NDC. And with the support from the Cooling Coalition and UNEP Empower project, Cambodia is also acting on the sustainable agriculture cold chain. Thanks to the Cooling Coalition, we are implementing strategy to improve efficiency and also reduce demand for cooling through passive and urban strategy with a new project implemented by Cooling Coalition member UNEP and UN ESCAPE to design guidelines for passive cooling solution in building. As one of the first country to join the Cooling Coalition and as a member of its steering committee, I can tell you first that it is very simple to join. It is also very rewarding for me as a national ozone director to work in this community that is elevating the topic and connecting the various benefits of sustainable cooling across ozone, food, energy, and climate agenda. We have benefit from all the Cooling Coalition has on offer, including its methodology, like the National Cooling Action Plan, and capacity building activity to achieve goals under the Kigali Amendment and the Paris Climate Agreement. The floor is back to you, Lily. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak. Jessica, if I can ask you, 5 years have passed since you and your team launched the Kigali Cooling Efficiency Program with John Kerry. How has the cooling landscape evolved then? And what has been the role of the collaboration together with the Cool Coalition in building this community?
Thank you, Lily. I would say the cooling landscape has really evolved tremendously over the past 4 or 5 years. New actors have emerged, new funding has come about from governments, multilateral organizations, private sector. New awareness has been gained, new solutions have been developed. And most importantly, as we're hearing on this panel, government action has risen tremendously, which is just wonderful to see. Commitments are coming about and implementation is happening. Awareness of and collaboration for efficient climate-friendly cooling has reached new heights as CASEP and UNEP joined forces to create the Cool Coalition. And thanks to the Cool Coalition and this joint effort we have, the Climate Action Summit saw the largest surge in activity for efficient climate-friendly cooling ever pledged. And the Cool Coalition is really helping to translate these commitments into action and rallying more partners. And I really believe that this translation of pledges into action is really the most critical step that we need to see happen. So we're really seeing a huge surge in the number and the amount of action. And really importantly, a surge in the number of countries developing national cooling action plans for the first time, as well as the number of countries enhancing their NDCs with climate-friendly cooling for the first time. I think we heard this number before, but I just think it's important to emphasize it again. In total, 50 countries are publishing and including cooling commitments in their enhanced NDCs for the first time this year. This is in comparison to only 6 countries that included cooling commitments in the run-up to the Paris COP. So this is a huge growth over the last 5 years. And 16 of the 50 are members of the Cool Coalition. 10 of these countries are receiving support from CASEP through our NDC support facility. I think it's also really important to note that we are now, for the first time, speaking with one voice on cooling and building a cooling community. Cooling was for a really long time quite a hidden issue, both in terms of the climate impact and the development impacts. And the Cool Coalition is really helping to bring this common voice, a common narrative, and push for a comprehensive approach on cooling. This didn't exist before. And one of the specific things that we've been working on within the Cool Coalition, directly in response to the call of action from the Secretary General, for all countries to develop national cooling action plans is we've worked with the Cool Coalition to bring together all experts working on national cooling action plans to create a model national cooling action plan methodology. This is what Mr. Pak from Cambodia was referring to. Cambodia is the first country to use this methodology and toolkit, and other countries can use it to help prepare their national cooling action plans for the first time. So the Cool Coalition has really succeeded in putting cooling high on the international agenda. And from my perspective, I'm not only talking about the climate change conferences or the climate agenda, it's building the connections between climate and cooling and food, energy, building the connections within countries, across countries, and bringing countries together and building this broad network of partners, including businesses, industry, to jointly take action on efficient climate-friendly cooling. Back to you, Lily.
Thank you, Jess, for succinctly capturing how we are collaborating in the Cool Coalition to address sustainable cooling, and for reminding everybody of the fact that 50 countries have included cooling in their enhanced NDC. I think this panel, I'd like to thank the panelists for the good discussion and for really showcasing how countries are taking leadership in this space and connecting the agenda, as you said, Jess, between efficient climate-friendly cooling and food, energy, and climate agenda. I think now I would like to open the floor to participants for the Q&A session. I understand that the Republic of Korea would like to take the floor. So I would like to give the floor to the representative from the Republic of Korea. The floor is yours. Thank you. I'm not sure if you're on mute. I see you on the screen, but I can't up there.
Well, thank you, Lily. And whenever we discuss about the importance of cooling, I'm reminded of former Prime Minister of Singapore, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, who famously said that without air conditioner, modern day Singapore would not have been here. So we need it. Maybe we need to cool the earth now by technology and innovation. Many good ideas have been shared this morning. And in case of Korea, we have raised the bar of the heat insulation of new houses. Many buildings have adopted cool roof concept, which is basically the idea of putting light repelling paints. And many engineers, researchers, and policymakers have been working on this. All of these issues will be discussed when Korea hosts the P4G summit at the end of this month. And prior to the summit, there will be an entire week of green future sessions where this issue can be further discussed, shared, and explored. Thank you, Lily.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Korean Ambassador Huen Cho, for your intervention and for showing us what the Republic of Korea is doing in this area at home and internationally. I understand that that France would also like to take the floor. So I'd like to give the floor to the representative from
Hi,
France.
Can you see me? Hi, thank you, Lily. So
Yes.
I'd like to thank, I'm Vincent Jochou from the French mission, and I'd like to thank you warmly for organizing this very interesting meeting, and especially Ethiopia, of course, and Denmark. And many thanks also to Ligia Norona, because her speech was very inspiring, clear, and giving us a lot of information about the challenge ahead. So very short, I would like to say that obviously after those presentations, we see better now how the issue of cooling is a cross-cutting issue. There's an important role of the initiative of the Cool Coalition against climate change, obviously. And we are pleased to be part of this Cool Coalition. We think it remains a topic of interest for us also because, as you may know, and if you don't, I would like to recall it, we tried to do a lot of work during the G7 presidency, so 2 years ago. And we created different initiatives about cooling, especially the efficient cooling initiative. So we've been working with some of you on a document, recently published brief on sustainable cooling in support of resilient and climate-proof recovery, because we think recovering better means also thinking about the way we're going to develop from now the new cooling infrastructure. Last 2 points. In 2021, we will continue the collaboration, in particular on the subject of cold chains, because we have the Food System Summit, as you all know. And we want to make a link with cooling and also the high-level dialogue on energy and the COP26. And it would be interesting to see how the panelists today see the link between the Cool Coalition and the high-level dialogue on energy. Finally, I'd like to stress that the subject of cooling must be linked to that of energy efficiency of buildings, obviously, and this is very interesting to see His Excellency from Korea talking about cool roof. And as you all know, since 5 years, a coalition has been launched on building, the Global Alliance for Building and Construction. It was launched during COP21, and we invite definitely all of our colleagues here today to join the coalition. And this is a coalition hosted by UNEP. So thank you so much, Lily, and I'll be looking forward to hear from my colleagues.
Thank you very much, Vincent, for highlighting the what France is also doing in this area, and also making the call for the Global Alliance on Buildings and Construction. I know that now I'd like to give the floor to the representative from Italy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning. My name is Lorenzo Morini. I'm the head of the Sustainable Development Division here at the Italian Mission. First of all, let me congratulate you for this very interesting, useful meeting. It's very important for us to have to receive updates on what is going on the different track of work that were, let's say, created or at least stimulated by the Climate Summit in 2019, and this is one of those track of work. I have two specific questions that I would like to put forward to the panelists and to yourself. First of all, Italy is very, we have a very important role this year in the framework of the COP26 in the partnership with the UK, and we are looking forward to the creation of synergies all around the spectrum of activities that we are carrying out. And one of the elements that was mentioned during the presentations was the importance of efficiency. And efficiency is not just related to the, as it has been mentioned, to the efficiency of the buildings, but also the efficiency of the nets, of the distribution of energy. And so we are currently supporting an initiative that is carrying out by Sustainable Energy for All and the International Energy Agency regarding the digitalization of the nets, of the distribution of the energy around the world. So I would like to know, how do you see this element to the digitalization, innovation, and technology in general be seen as a cross-cutting element that can be carried out from one track of work to the other. Efficiency and cooling, etc., just in order to have, you know, the systems to talk to each other in terms of very practical terms. The second element is that we are also very much interested in the element of food. This year there's going to be the Food System Summit, and we are hosting in Italy the pre-summit at the end of July. So cooling is a fundamental element in food security, as it has been mentioned during the interventions. I am very much interested in knowing if there is some element of your initiative on cooling that will be brought into the track of works that are currently being carried out in the Food System Summit preparation. Because we think it could be a very important element to be, you know, presented, or to be at least introduced into the framework of the documents that will be adopted, or at least presented during the Food System Summit here, and the Press Summit in Rome, and the Food System Summit here in New York. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorenzo. So the second question that you've asked, it would take away from the presentation that we have coming up just after this session from Ms. Megumi Seki from the Executive Secretary of the Ozone Secretariat, and also the next panel, where we will be speaking about the interconnection between the international processes, including the UN Food Systems Summit. So if I may leave it to our panelists and speakers to address that question, the second question, if that's okay for you. The first question on digitalization as an enabler of efficient climate-friendly cooling, let me turn to our panelist, Jessica, for her views on that.
Sure. Thank you very much for your very interesting remarks and very thoughtful and good questions. I would say there's a direct and very important link between the need of appliances and buildings to be more efficient and climate friendly, and digitalization, and making appliances smart is a critical step towards making them more efficient. Precisely because in order to make appliances more efficient, making them smart, you will be able to then know the appropriate time to turn these appliances on and off. So if you're running your machine for long periods of time, they're not going to be run in the most efficient time. So you can often trigger the use of peaker plants when it's going to then power fossil fuel use at an inappropriate time. So if we can start to integrate the use of smart and digitalize these products, we will know to turn these appliances on when we can run them with renewable power, and then turn them off when we know that there's a real crunch in the system and the load is heavy. So I think there's a real need to start to digitalize these products so that there's a really direct connection there.
And I think that's perfectly said, Jessica, so thank you so much for that. And I think just to highlight, Lorenzo, we really see this as critical, as Jessica said, because we have seen that the amount of just residential AC on the grid in the past few years has outstripped all of the new solar capacity additions to the grid. And so without this kind of digitalization and that Jess just mentioned, there's no way that we'll be able to actually green the cooling demand that we foresee coming. So I will now transition to our speaker, as I mentioned, presentation from Ms. Megumi Seki, Acting Executive Secretary from the Ozone Secretariat, who will speak to us on taking action on the energy climate nexus, and will also address the question, Lorenzo, that you asked on the links to the UN Food System Summit. Meg, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me in this important event and for this opportunity to present. I would like to try to share a couple of slides here. Let me try if it works. Okay. So the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer and its Kigali Amendment are quite well-known multilateral environmental agreements. The substances controlled under the Montreal Protocol are highly global warming, particularly the HFCs controlled under the Kigali Amendment. Reducing HFCs under the Kigali Amendment will therefore contribute significantly to climate change mitigation. HFCs are widely used in the cooling sector. Enhancing energy efficiency in cooling equipment while phasing down HFCs can even double the climate benefits from the HFC reduction. So the cooling sector, including the cold chains, is essential in food and also vaccines preservation. So we could say that the Kigali Amendment and the cooling sector are really amid the food, energy, climate nexus. So my presentation focuses on the Rome Declaration and the plan that we have for the Food Summit. So in 2019, at the 31st meeting of the parties hosted by Italy at the FAO premises in 2019, the government of Italy initiated the Rome Declaration, which is on the contribution of the Montreal Protocol to food loss reduction through sustainable cold chain development. So the declaration was open for signature at that meeting, and so far 82 parties have signed on to it. And this declaration is still open for signature. The Rome Declaration essentially calls for strengthening cooperation and coordination between governments and other stakeholders, UN bodies, for example, and institutions of the Montreal Protocol, to exchange knowledge and to promote energy efficient solutions to reduce the use of substances controlled under the Montreal Protocol in the development of cold chain and contribute to reduce food loss and waste. So we are now working with the government of Italy to organize some activities for the Food Summit. So what do we want to achieve at the Food Summit? So we want to expand and strengthen the political commitment to sustainable cold chain solutions to reduce food loss. There are several reasons why we are organizing activities around the Rome Declaration. We want to increase the visibility of the Rome Declaration, the Montreal Protocol, and the Kigali Amendment. We also want to increase the awareness about the linkages among the Montreal Protocol, Kigali Amendment, reduction in substances that are highly global warming, energy efficiency, climate change mitigation, and the SDGs. We also want to boost further endorsement of the Rome Declaration and the implementation of relevant actions. So we are working with Italy. Hold on. So we are working mainly with the government of Italy right now, but we hope that other governments will be able to join, such as those countries that are strong supporters of the Rome Declaration and also have cold chain activities and also are part of the Cool Coalition. And within UNEP, we are working with the Ozone Action Program and also the Cool Coalition team under the Energy and Climate branch. And we also expect that FAO, the Cool Coalition also and its members, the Multilateral Fund of the Montreal Protocol, will also join the effort. So lastly, under the how part here that you see in the slide, I have listed some of the possible activities which are under consideration right now. We may organize a high-level event in conjunction with this Food Summit in September, and possibly a preparatory event to promote this sustainable cold chain. And this preparatory event could be in Italy in July. We also would like to organize an industry exhibition which showcase committed industries and also ozone and climate-friendly technologies. We would like to come up with a publication that compiles case studies of actions and solutions for sustainable cold chains. And post-summit, we also would like to link with the Energy Summit. This is the high-level dialogue on energy, which is going to happen in September, and also try to organize a side event in conjunction with the Vienna Convention, Montreal Protocol, Conference of the Parties, Meeting of the Parties coming up in October. Thank you very much. That's it. So back to you, Lily.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Meg. I think actually your presentation makes the perfect segue into our panel discussion on how Cool Coalition will link to the Year of Action across the three international processes that you also mentioned, Meg. So with us today, we have Minoru Takada, who is really spearheading work on SDG 7, and he's here from UNDESA, representing the work on the high-level dialogue on energy. We have with us Lawrence Haddad, the Executive Director from GAIN, who will speak to us on the UN Food System Summit, and then Hamza Goodacre, who is a COP26 Champions lead on cooling. So if I can first turn to you, Minoru, and ask you, I mean, we've heard today about, as we've heard from, for example, the Cool Coalition Champion Fatih Birol, Executive Director of the IEA, and others have said many times that cooling is a blind spot of the energy transition. Can you tell us why cooling is important in the context of the high-level dialogue on energy?
Thank you, Lily. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to work with you always, colleagues. And then also thanks to the permanent mission of Denmark and Ethiopia for hosting this very, very important event today. It's a very timely event. So cooling, obviously this isn't a fundamental sort of topic here. In relation to energy, in the SDG framework, there's SDG 7. And SDG 7 practically have 3 pillars. 1, universal energy access, both electricity and clean cooking. 2nd, renewable energy. And the 3rd, energy efficiency. Now, if you look at what we have to do over the next 10 years even the next 30 years to get to net zero, I think it's fundamental that we have to scale up a lot of actions, and particularly energy efficiency. Say, for example, if we want to be doubling the global rate of improvement in energy efficiency, which is one of the targets in SDG 7. Are we there yet? Not at all. So the reason that cooling is becoming more and more important is partly because we really have to scale up this issue, and then this cooling issue is going to be fundamental on that. But secondly, and quite importantly, energy is an enabler of development. So if you work on energy well, you'll be able to have knock-on effect on many other sustainable development goals. Cooling cannot be a better example of that. And I think the panels beforehand illustrated substantially and how much we can actually do by having cooling interventions, smart and boldly. So that is the reason why that we take this issue extremely seriously. Now, high-level dialogue energy is coming up in September, and this is the first time the General Assembly is convening high-level energy event over the last 4 decades. Last time was in 1981 after the oil crisis in Kenya. Now we're in a different crisis, probably multiple crises. And that's why Secretary General decided to have this one at the summit level. So this is going to be a heads of states level gathering in September in the margin of General Assembly. Before we get there, we're working toward, the preparing technically on that one. One of the major milestones is a ministerial thematic forums. That is going to be happening between 21st and 25th of June, focused on the 5 themes of the high-level dialogue energy, which is access, renewable efficiency, as well as interlinkages with SDGs, technology, data, and those things. So I think I invite Cooling Coalition to come and present their the big pictures. and also showcasing how much work is being done. And with a great coalition of over 50 countries working together, I think this is going to be enormous contribution toward, on the cause of SDG 7. That will be sort of making the information available in terms of registration, application for side events, ministerial segments, which is probably a good opportunity for some of the ministers come and talk about how important Cool Coalition's work is and the cooling in general is, and how that is actually sort of advancing their work toward SDG 7 and net zero emissions moving forward. So we'll be more than happy to work together. But again, congratulations to the Cool Coalition. They're making so much of an advancement. 5 years ago, I didn't know much about it. And because of you, we're talking about cooling a lot more than it used to be. And it has to be more than that right now. So thanks again. We'll be in touch. Back to you, Lily.
Thank you, Minoru. And I think it's really thanks to the collective action of all of the members of the Cool Coalition who are here today as well, who've been able to really raise the profile of cooling. And similar to how you have been able to really raise the profile of SDG 7. So thank you to you. If I can now move to you, Lawrence. I mean, you've been awarded the 2018 World Food Prize for your work, and I just would be keen to hear, in a world where climate change has a negative impact on food cycles, intensifying food production is not going to be a viable solution on its own to respond to emerging food demand. So why, in your view, is cooling key to mitigating food loss and ensuring food security?
Thank you, Lily, and thanks, colleagues, for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm learning a lot. I work on food systems. My day job is the director of the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, but my current job, that's taking up all my time, is the chair of the action track in the Food Systems Summit on ensuring access to safe and nutritious food. And I think Minoru said cooling is sort of a blind spot in the energy world. Well, it's in the food system world, it's kind of everybody's business, but nobody's responsibility. And so when I came across the Cool Coalition, I was looking for solutions that would be game-changing solutions in the food system space. And I was thrilled to come across the Cool Coalition. So for the past 5 months, I've really been working with the coalition to try to work up a game-changing proposal that can be presented at the Food System Summit that member states in the food system space can really get behind. Why am I so excited about it? It's not just food loss and food waste. Farmers can increase their income by being able to produce more perishable foods. More perishable foods tend to be higher economic value foods. But at the moment, in the absence of sustainable cooling systems and infrastructure, farmers simply don't even decide to produce those kinds of food. So it's not even about food loss, it's about food not produced. But of course, it is also about food loss, and it's about food loss, but even more critically, it's about nutrient loss, because the foods that are most perishable tend to be the ones that are highest in vitamins and minerals. Those are absolutely essential for good health. And it's about the inputs that went into the food that are also lost, the nutrients in the soil, the water, and so on and so forth. The third reason why I'm so interested in it is because of food safety. Food that is perishable and is spoiled is unsafe for human consumption. And if it's unsafe for human consumption, it can't reduce hunger and it can't improve nutrition status. 3 billion people can't afford a healthy diet right now. Cooling solutions that are sustainable and scalable and affordable will have a big impact on that. 600 million people suffer from foodborne illnesses every year. Sustainable, scalable cooling solutions can really help. So what do I like about the Cooling Coalition's work? You focus in a systemic way, and we're working on food systems. So this is completely aligned with what we're doing in the food system world. You're looking at multi-use multi-use containers and cooling boxes. They can be used for COVID vaccines, they can be used for perishable foods. I love that. They're circular, no cooling box should ever be unfilled. I love that too. And it's a fantastic, the work you're doing is a fantastic platform for aggregation. So it also meets the needs of small scale farmers and their livelihoods. We don't have to be a big farmer or a big producer to be able to access the Cool Coalition's work. So I'm a huge fan, and I think the Cool Coalition will be a big game changer for the Food Systems Summit. And anything I can do to support that and to support some of the work that Meg was talking about, I'm very happy to do so. Back to you, Lily.
Thank you very much, Lawrence, and I hope that your intervention has also answered the question from our colleague from the Italian mission.
My namesake, Lorenzo. Yes, thank you, Lorenzo.
So I think now I will ask Dan if you can tell us how you're on the COP26 champions team and as a cooling lead, and it would be great to hear from you why action on cooling is important in the context of COP26 and for the UK president, and how this connects with the international processes we've been hearing about today.
Thanks, Lily, and hello, distinguished guests and friends. Nice to see familiar faces. So for the COP, the UK government has set out 4 goals: mitigation, adaptation, finance, and collaboration. I think most people are aware of the first 3, less so on the last one. In terms of mitigation, net zero is really the zeitgeist. You can't really but have noticed the amount of commitments are being made to net zero, both country commitments and also from non-party stakeholders. And the world, of course, needs that really high ambition, but we also need to be really quite specific and to focus on action now. And that's why cooling is so critical. And the solution we all work on, efficient climate-friendly cooling, delivers for those COP goals: mitigation, adaptation, and finance all in one. And then we have a great collaboration opportunity through the Cool Coalition. So there's a really nice fit between the overall goals of COP26 and the work we're all doing on cooling. Just a little bit more specifically, for the COP presidency that the UK holds right now, action is being driven in 3 main ways. The first is call to action, is the phrase. It's a call to action on product efficiency, which is about 4 key products, and it's about doubling the efficiency of those products, and they include fridges and air conditioners, also lights and motors. So actually half of the 4 focused products are about cooling. Secondly, the UK presidency is driving action through support for the high-level champions team under Nigel Topping and Gonzalo Munoz, and that work focuses on the pathway to net zero cooling and engaging across non-party stakeholders to make commitments to net zero cooling. And then the third way that the COP presidency is focusing on cooling is through the Energy Transition Council, which, for those of you that are familiar with it, mostly focuses on energy supply, but actually a number of countries are asking for support on energy efficiency, which includes cooling efficiency. So they're the 3 main ways, at least as I see, that cooling is featuring. In terms of the link to international processes, Lily, various of the speakers I think have already mentioned these already, the links through to the Montreal Protocol and the Kigali Amendment particularly, and then of course the SDGs like health and education and livelihoods. I should also say that hopefully this year we'll see more progress on cooling and product efficiency through the G7, which is happening in a few weeks' time, and then also the G20 actually under Italy's leadership a little bit later in the year. Back to you.
Thank you. I think a question I'd like to ask all 3 of you here with us today is a bit how, you've mentioned a bit already how the Cool Coalition is contributing to the processes. I think it would be nice for participants to hear on how they can contribute in a comprehensive way to all 3. So if I can first start with you, Minoru, if you could, you mentioned already some actions that governments can take in terms of making commitments at the high-level dialogue or national compacts. Could you elaborate a little bit more on how countries could commit to action on cooling in this framework and how, for example, it could connect to COP26?
Thank you, Lily. So we're doing sort of we want two big outcomes basically around the high-level dialogue energy. Number one is that heightened political commitments, but around what? Around what we call global roadmap. Global roadmap to achieve 2030 SDG 7 targets, consistent and contributing to net zero emissions by 2050. So this is what we are kind of, currently preparing through the about 200 experts involved in the technical working group, 5 tracks of them, putting things together. Cooling, don't worry, it's going to be part of it. So that's one thing to come. Secondly, as we develop that roadmap to be presented to the ministerial high-level ministerial forum that I mentioned in June, and then through that going to the dialogue in September, we are now mobilizing lots of actions. We call those voluntary actions by member states and businesses, all those things together called energy compacts. So we are actually reaching out to all over the world, all constituencies, to encourage them to come with their own actions. Action that can contribute any elements of SDG 7 and any way that they can contribute made explicit to going into the net zero emissions. We're doing multiple workshops. And then I think first stop of showcasing your energy compacts are going to be ministerial thematic forum, as I mentioned, 21 to 25 June. There's going to be tons of side event opportunities to announce them. I can tell literally hundreds of side events can be hosted by us virtually. So we encourage, and information about how to register to the side event and then how to actually submit online your energy compacts is going to be made available next week all over the world when we send the save the date. So we look forward to having that. And then in addition, at the United Nations, we are trying to pull things together under the leadership of Secretary General on coherent narrative for all the UN conferences happening in 2021. One of the aim of that one is really to make sure each and every conferences meeting that we're doing will be able to contribute to the COP26 success. So for that, we have a very strong desire to make sure action that we'll be mobilizing around high-level dialogue energy under the name of Energy Compacts will continue to be mobilized beyond September. And in the next milestone, obviously, is going to be the COP26, where we'll be, of course, showcasing lots of energy compacts at the COP26. And we're using that next 10 years up to 2030. So that's sort of our game plan is. Look forward to sort of working with everybody who wants to bring in their own commitments. Back to you, Lily.
Thank you, Minoru. Very clear on how the connection can be made between the process. Thank you very much for that. Lawrence, if I could turn to you with the same question, as you already mentioned the connection to some extent, but if you could elaborate on how you're thinking as the lead of track 1, for example, on the at the UN Food Systems Summit, of the connection to the other international processes, COP26 or even the high-level dialogue on energy.
Yeah, thanks, Lily. I mean, we're at the moment in May and June, we've got a pre-summit coming up in July, as Lorenzo mentioned, in Italy, and we're currently in the process of getting member states to form coalitions with UN agencies, development banks, donors, and businesses around these kind of cool coalition solutions. We want to get build these coalitions of action that are going to make announcements at the pre-summit and at the summit, whether it's we want to join, we want to support, we want to invest, we want to build capacity. All of those types of commitments are really key. And what I guess my plea would be to the Cool Coalition is if you can somehow coordinate the member state commitments across all of those different summits, that would be amazing, because then we're into the world of synergies, and the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And each one of those summits is almost like a stepping stone on a pathway to elevate what the Cool Coalition is trying to do. And I just want to reiterate again, there's no way we're going to reduce the number of people who can afford a healthy diet. Remember, it's 3 billion people cannot afford a healthy diet. There's no way we're going to be able to reduce that number without solutions like the Cool Coalition solutions. It's absolutely essential. So I think if you are looking to amplify and build support for the Cool Coalition, engaging in the Food System Summit is really a very smart thing to do for yourselves, but also for these food goals. And I guess the one anxiety I have is that the coalition, will plow on ahead and power on ahead and forget about food and nutritious food unless there's a sort of a serious engagement at the Food System Summit. Back to you, Lily.
Yes, I think as you heard from countries today, I think they all on the first panel, they highlighted the importance of acting on food and making sure that cooling services are there to improve livelihoods for farmers and ensure that there is a sustainable cold chain. So I think we certainly will not be forgetting about food systems. And now if I can turn to you, Dan, with a final remarks on this question.
Yeah, thanks, Lily. Yeah, if I may, I'll answer this jointly with what I see being necessary from the countries that are represented on the call, as well as the Cool Coalition. And there's 3 parts to this. The first is, if a country hasn't submitted its NDC yet, then to include cooling in that NDC. As I said, we need to get more specific about how we get from here to net zero or from here to high ambition. If a country's published its NDC and it's got cooling in it, great, please tell other countries. And if you publish your NDC but not your long-term climate plan, then cooling needs to be in that. And the role of the Cool Coalition is to shine a light on what best practice looks like. And KSEP has actually put out a paper this week on cooling in NDCs. The second is engaging the private sector, in particular through the race to zero. And really most of the partners in the race to zero in the private sector side are from industrialized countries, and we need many more participants in the private sector from developing countries. And so countries represented on this call can help to engage the private sector in their countries to make commitments to net zero. And I see the role of the Cool Coalition again in creating the opportunity for peer-to-peer learning to bring these businesses together. We did so very recently and brought together about 30 of the world's largest cooling companies, and even a few weeks after, a number of them are already signing up to net zero commitments. And then the third area, which is probably most important, is implementation. Both countries and companies that are making these commitments in this sort of year of action, it's a year of commitment and action, need to know how to achieve what's being pledged, because there's no point in pledging if we're not going to be honest and deliver the work. So the Cool Coalition can provide a really useful forum for technical, financial, policy advice, that peer-to-peer interaction and really making that business case for optimizing the role of cooling in the delivery of these much needed pledges that are happening. So that's what I think needs to happen. Lots to do. Back to you.
Thank you, Dan. I just want to thank all 3 of our panelists, because I think it's been a very good discussion on how to interconnect the processes and how cooling really cuts across, whether it's from the GHG emission reduction from tackling food loss through cold chain, or whether it's through the energy system and the immense demand of cooling on our energy systems, as you touched upon, Minoru, that it all, in the end, from the high-level dialogue on energy to the Food System Summit, will lead to COP26, as you, Dan, also emphasized, in terms of how different processes will be connected. And I just want to give one moment before I hand over to Sophie Laurent, from the lead of advocacy and outreach from UN Environment Program. Is there any questions from the floor? I do not see any questions in the chat box or any representatives from countries asking to take the floor. I just ask once more before I move on to the next intervention. Okay, Sophie, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Lily, and thanks to all the speakers for their contribution. I'm going to be quick because I know we are running a little bit out of time, but I hope that what you heard today, and Lawrence was talking about synergy, it's really what the Cool Coalition is about. I hope that what you heard today like spark your enthusiasm, and that now you are like ready to join the Cool Coalition. But I thought that maybe you wanted to know how to join the Cool Coalition. So first of all, we just wanted to highlight that the Cool Coalition is really an informal membership, but there are like 5 key things that we are asking our partners to do. So first of all is that we want the partners to endorse our vision. And the vision is like, you can see it on the screen, so I'm not going to repeat what you can see, but really having this comprehensive action when it comes to cooling, reduce, shift, improve product. The second one is really about like advocacy. So to advocate, like come together and raise awareness about efficient climate-friendly cooling and all the benefits from efficient climate-friendly cooling. Then I think we heard it today like many times from Rwanda, we heard it from Vietnam and others. The Cool Coalition is really about like collaboration. Another one is really about like knowledge sharing. And again, I'm referring to what Vietnam was saying about the support they are getting on the urban cooling, and that they will be ready to share with other countries. So again, like knowledge sharing is really key for any partners that want to join. And then act. So when it comes to action, one of the things that you need to know is that we put together this comprehensive guide with a few actions to guide countries, but they are voluntary action. And of course, that are action that can evolve around, for the time when you join, and then they can evolve across the years. And joining the Cool Coalition is really simple. So as I said, it's informal membership. You just need to endorse the statement. You can find the statement and the form to join the Cool Coalition on our website. So you can go to www.coolcoalition.org. And then you can download the endorsement form and just ask the representative from your country to sign the form. So that's all it requires to be a formal member of the Cool Coalition, and we really hope today that a lot of you will join us. Back to you, Lily.
Thank you. Okay, so now I would like to give the floor to Her Excellency Danish Ambassador Spector for closing remarks.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much, both to our co-host Ethiopia, but very much to Lily and Sophie and the rest of the Cool Coalition team for putting this together, and for your work in general. I think it's been since the coalition was launched in 2019, it has really been a pleasure to see how the coalition team has worked tirelessly to put climate-friendly cooling on top of the agenda, and to mobilize concrete actions and commitments from leaders in governments, business, and civil society. And Denmark is also for that reason proud to be one of the founding partners of the coalition, as well as one of its donors. And of course, as such, we really strongly encourage and recommend others to join as partners. And thanks to Sophie for explaining what it entails. It should be clear that the entry barrier, so to speak, is really manageable. But let me just in closing highlight 3 features of the coalition, which I think has been illustrated in different ways during our seminar this morning. And first is, I want to highlight the advocacy role of the coalition. As many of you, Jessica and Dan and many others pointed out, efficient cooling should be part of the enhanced indices that all governments are working on now. And the coalition can push to this level of ambition by documenting the multiple benefit of sustainable cooling, because it is this multi-stakeholder coalition. And that's the second point I want to highlight, this multi-stakeholder nature. To build back better and greener, we need these type of innovative partnerships across sectors, across value chains. We need public-private cooperation to set clear targets in both the public and private sector, to promote the right framework conditions for investing in energy transition. I think the coalition is such an excellent example of this type of multi-stakeholder initiative that we need more of to create new green jobs. And third, I want to highlight the whole of society approach, which is promoted by the coalition to ensure that the green transition is just and inclusive. We need to engage women, youth, and civil society, which the coalition does. So in conclusion, Denmark is of course a global theme champion of energy transition for the high level dialogue and in September, and as such we commit to ensure that sustainable cooling is kept as a central piece in the global conversation on accelerating climate action. And I think this seminar was already a good step in that direction. So thank you all to the excellent panelists, and thanks again to the Cool Coalition for putting this together with us. And have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Ambassador Wechter. I see that we're out of time. And on behalf of the many members of the Cool Coalition, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today, in particular our hosts, Denmark and Ethiopia, and our speakers. I hope you found the event informative, and we would of course be very pleased to follow up with any of you who have questions or would like additional information about the Cool Coalition, or would like to be cool, as Lija said earlier, and join the Cool Coalition to advance efficient climate-friendly cooling for people and the planet. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.